And showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. Look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am executive editor of the ChannelPro Network, also a host of this program. I'm joined this week, as I am every week, by your other co-host, Eric Simpson, a business transformation and improvement advisor to MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, how's it going?
It's going well, Rich, here in sunny Southern California. How's the weather where you happen to be this week?
Well, you know what? I am, as we speak, I am out here in Atlanta, Georgia. We are just hours away from doing ChannelPro's latest SMB Forum event. So got the backdrop going here, but trust me, I'm in Atlanta and about 85 degrees, a little muggy, but you know what? There's no hurricane here, so it's pretty much all good.
Hey, we'll take that.
You know what, though? Speaking of hurricanes, let's just dive right into our story of the week here. And I'll just tell folks who are listening or watching this right now, as we record this, the story we are about to talk about, which is the only and obvious candidate to talk about, is still unfolding. So this obviously is the hack that affected Kaseya's VSA, remote monitoring and management system. As we're recording this right now, that system is still down. It has been down since Friday afternoon. We are recording this the following Wednesday. They are getting very close to bringing that software back online, both the cloud version and the on-prem version. But as of right now, that system is still down. You know, there are a lot of things that we don't know really about what happened here, some of which we're not going to know for some period of time. I had an opportunity over the 4th of July holiday to speak with Fred Vicola, the CEO of Kaseya. He said basically we would like to tell people exactly how this transpired. We're not allowed to. The FBI is conducting an ongoing criminal investigation. There are some other complications around that. And it could be days, weeks, months before the federal government basically clears Kaseya to provide a full accounting of what happened. But you know, the wording that was used with me in this conversation that I've seen used in other conversations that Kaseya has had with the media, those words are incredibly sophisticated. This is not a case where somebody got an email with a phishing lure in it, they clicked a bad link, and that was all that needed to happen. Whatever these attackers did involved a lot of skill, a lot of dedication, a lot of determination. And as we know now, they are demanding or offering to share a universal decryptor for the customers who had their data encrypted for an astounding $70 million. You know, the experts who are familiar with these kinds of negotiations say there's no way this winds up landing them $70 million, but it's not inconceivable if Kaseya decides that this is the wisest course of action, that they wind up with $40 million, $50 million, which would be an incredible amount of money and a lot of blood in the water, basically, Eric. If there was any doubt, essentially, whether or not that kind of money is paid or not, if there was any doubt about systems like RMM tools, IT management tools being an enormous target for attackers right now. I mean, that is out the door and gone once and for all. It wasn't just SolarWinds and their Orion system. Now we're seeing, you know, within the span of 6-7 months, another tool being compromised in a big way like this. This is going to happen again. So a few takeaways or interesting observations here. First of all, we're going to learn more about how this happened to Kaseya and where they may or may not have made mistakes that contributed to this. But I will give them credit for shutting things down pretty quickly. There are 38,000 organizations in the world using VSA. As far as we know right now, 50 to 60 of them were affected by this attack. And the main reason for that is because the chief information security officer at Kaseya, before he knew that this attack was for real, just when he was seeing indications that something suspicious was happening, he shut everything down. Didn't go to Fred Vicola and ask for permission. The playbook said, in this situation, you see this kind of suspicious activity, you shut it all down, even though it impacts 38,000 customers. And that played an instrumental role in limiting, containing the damage. 50 to 60 MSPs, we believe up to 1,500 end user organizations with encrypted data as a result of that. So I suppose the good news, if there is any, is that we have contained the damage to that extent. You know, again, we are like 5 days into this. There are a whole lot of Kaseya VSA users who weren't ransomed or hacked by this, but they haven't had an RMM tool for the better part of a week at this point. And I think a takeaway for everybody out there is going to be, think about what you would do without an RMM system for this length of time. This could happen to you next time. It could be your, if you're not a VSA user, it could be your RMM tool that gets targeted next time. Do you have a plan in action for dealing with an RMM breach if one affects you? And if it's not something that gets resolved in a quick manner, how are you going to deal with that? And think in particular about the communication element of what you'll do or would do in that situation. Because what's striking to me about this particular scenario, Eric, is it's not just you calling up your customers saying, there's been a problem, here's how we're dealing with it. Every time they turn on the TV or the radio or pick up a newspaper, all they're hearing is Kaseya VSA, Kaseya VSA. So they're probably coming at you as an MSP and wanting to know what happened and what are you doing about it. And you need to know how are you going to communicate, what channels are you going to use, who's going to do that communication, how often are you going to do it, have a plan in place for that. So those some very preliminary thoughts. I think, Eric, the repercussions of this incident, this breach, are going to be out there in the managed services world, maybe even down the road in the form of regulations, as we've been talking about for MSPs. I think we're going to be talking about this for a long time, and I think this is something that's going to influence the way that most MSPs, including the ones who don't use VSA, do business.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Rich. And I think, first off, the rapid response and quick thinking, of Kaseya and their CISO, I think really was instrumental in limiting the fallout. Not to say that the fallout isn't considerable. I mean, thinking about the ransom that they're asking here, but that was some quick thinking, and I guess following a playbook that they had established. And you look at what happened, and you look at what the aftermath might be. And I'm looking more on the positive side to say, well, the way that this has been handled and the way that Kaseya and the federal government and even the current administration have responded to this will inform how we respond when it happens again, right? So I think as these criminals, these cyber criminals, become much more bold and much more successful at extracting ransom, it paints a dangerous picture of, if Kaseya and their insurance carriers and all that decide, yes, we're, the best course of action is to pay the ransom, which I think would not be what the current administration would like them to do, simply because of, yes, another win in the win box for these cyber criminals, and makes them even more, more emboldened to continue these types of attacks. If they do happen to do that, that may be the most difficult decision. I mean, I'd hate to have to be the person to make that call, right? It's tough. Now, kind of looking on the bright side as much as we can, I was also very, very impressed at the community at large. I saw vendors putting out calls for support. I saw MSPs jumping in. I saw lots of industry thought leaders kind of driving the response from a community perspective, saying, hey, this is an opportunity for us all to pull together. It affects all of us. And if you have excess capacity for technicians or security specialists, let's come together and pull together to see what we can do to help, address this as quickly as possible. So, it's that battle cry from the vendors and the MSPs that really, I think, I have not seen to this level yet. And, we've covered, you and I, Rich, stories of other vendors, in the channel that have been hacked and breached and things like that. And, nothing to this degree. And yes, the order of sophistication, from what we're reading and understanding, that enabled this attack to happen, even eclipses what we thought was a very, very sophisticated attack, from the SolarWinds breach and things like that. So these folks are really accelerating. These cyber criminals are outpacing our ability to keep up with it. And, unfortunately, we've got a lot of catching up to do as cybersecurity specialists and as an industry, not only for our own businesses, but, for the clients that we serve moving forward. So, I hate to think that, the next one will be even worse than this. So you mentioned, regulation, you mentioned, other policies and procedures that I think are inevitable. We need all the help we can get. And that means that we need, the current administration to open up budgets and help with the response to these things. I mean, it's a challenging problem.
No question about it. And I really want to reinforce a point that you were making there, because I think it's an important one, which is the way and the degree to which the community has rallied around Kaseya, at this particular time. There is strength in numbers. And I think you're right that, there are some very creative, determined adversaries out there looking for vulnerabilities that they can exploit. But to the degree that the community operates as a community and people are sharing information and they're coming together and collaborating to ward off attacks and to respond to attacks when they happen, that's the way that we, the good guys, can ultimately win. And I think it's important to point out, when I spoke with Fred Vacola a few days ago, he wanted to make a point of emphasizing that he was grateful and impressed by the degree to which people were coming to him, offering to help, and this includes MSPs who use VSA software. Instead of asking, how are you going to help me? He had MSPs coming to him, how can we help you? He had competitors. He said Jason McGee, the CEO of ConnectWise, called him up and said, let me know if there's anything I can do. So, I mean, he really was impressed by the way the community rallied around. And I think that's the kind of spirit of community. That's the kind of action that we really kind of need to see on a continued basis, not just to respond to these things as they come up, but also to just get better as a community at preventing them from happening in the first place. So, you know what, there's still a lot more to come on this story, and we may even wind up talking about it on next week's episode. I wouldn't be surprised. So to be continued, folks. But you know what, coming up with a plan to deal with something like this, if it happens to you in the RMM that you use, that's about training attention on your house, getting your house in order. And that goes beyond systems and tools and so on into people and compensation and so on. And that's what you want to talk about this week in your tip of the week, Eric.
Yes, thanks for teeing that up, Rich. The tip of the week this week, and it stems from a recent conversation I had with a partner that I'm working with. And we're working through their, the 4 Ps that I focus on when I'm helping organizations improve are people, platforms, processes, and products and services. So we're talking about the people part, which is, a big piece of the enchilada here. I mean, the people part is the most challenging. And we were talking about succession strategy. We were talking about accountability charts and how to really promote the opportunity within your organization to increase employee morale, but also make your organization very attractive for applicants to to want to come work for you. And the question came up, well, Eric, how often or when is the right time to change or adjust compensation plans? And the answer to me is always the same: when it's necessary. So that might mean, the existing compensation plan is not incentivizing the staff to perform, whether they're on the technical side of the house or the sales side of the house or anywhere in between. If it's not incentivizing the performance that you're looking for from your team, then hey, that's a good time to reevaluate your compensation plan. Another good time to evaluate your compensation plan is when you feel like it's uh, it's stagnant. You've got comps and salaries, but really there's something missing that is influencing your existing staff to look elsewhere, right? They want to make more money. They want to, grow in their career. So this all intertwines with a succession strategy where you have your accountability chart with your roles clearly defined and the comp and salary that goes within each one of those roles. And I don't mean, Rich, just from a where are we today, but where will we be in 5 years? Where will we be in 10 years? And what does that accountability or organization chart look like? And how can your existing staff, where do they see themselves growing within the organization? So you have a base comp and salary, a role and requirements, but then within that comp, there can also be an incentive and a rewards program that allows the staff to earn additional bonuses and commissions for going above and beyond the call of duty, right? So you get paid your salary and comp for doing your job and doing it every day. But what happens if you increase your performance and, by 2 or 3, levels? And how do we incent that and reward those resources within our organization? So there's a little bit of a danger. I don't recommend changing comp plans, more often than maybe every 6 months and maybe every year. But if there's something that's not working and you need to do something different in order to incent performance or make sure that you're encouraging your staff to perform, there's also a bit of art and science to it, right? You don't want to create a perception where, oh, the organization is removing my commissions or I'll be making less money, right? It can't work that way. The comp plan that you design and tweak has to promote the ability of the staff to actually exceed what they thought they can make before, but make it more performance-based. So you're managing your risk from a salary and a comp, base salary perspective, but then those additional levels of performance or KPI metrics that the team is achieving, whether it be technically or from a sales performance perspective, they're paid for, those commissions and bonuses are paid for by the additional efficiencies or higher performance, yielding greater gross profit. So that's how you work these things. So again, a little bit of art and science. The intent of this week's tip of the week is to get folks to reevaluate their compensation plans and their strategies. Are they competitive? Would someone be lured away from your competitor to come work for you because you have this vision of a very defined succession strategy? Where the organization is growing. They can see where they can grow within the organization and potentially earn more than simply a base salary type of a comp plan by exceeding performance expectations over time.
And I just want to quickly underscore something you said at the beginning there that I think is really important, because it reminds me of something that I read once in Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway shareholder letter, which I read every year, by the way, because that's how I roll. But one year I remember, and there was a whole context for this, but he said, if you've got a problem, the time to fix it is now. I don't assume that there's time later on to fix a problem. If there's a problem, fix that problem now. And so if your compensation scheme isn't working for you right now, you don't have to wait till the next annual review cycle, say. You can step in. Like you said, art and science, how you do it matters. You don't kind of want to just dive in there and start making wholesale changes that produce problems, but don't feel like we're locked into this and I can't go in there and make a change. If it's not working for you, by all means, go ahead and get into it and make those changes.
Absolutely. Warren's right on the money there. And I'm glad to hear that you're keeping up with your Berkshire Hathaway investments by reading the annual shareholders letter every year, Rich.
And this is how nerdy I am. I don't even own any Berkshire Hathaway, but I'm reading their shareholder letter anyway, just because I think it's interesting reading. But that leaves us time, with time for just one more story. And it comes to us from the world of real estate. Now, as we both know, Eric, when it comes to real estate, the 3 things that matter most are location, location, location. And the best location, let's face it, is a view of the water. It could be a problem, though, if that view of the water is looking up. And what I'm referring to here is a roughly 19-acre lot that was recently put on sale in Canada on the Canadian side of Lake Erie. It sells, I mean, it's right on Lake Erie, Eric. It sells for a mere $80,000, roughly speaking, American. There is a catch, however, which is that it's actually underwater. So that's, it's going to be a little bit inconvenient in terms of building. It might not be the ideal weekend hideaway, but you know what? It is a lake, a waterfront Lake Erie address that you could have for $80,000.
So you would consider it land adjacent then?
Land adjacent, yes. Yeah, exactly. That's how I'm sure it will be listed. Check it out, folks. I have a hunch it's still for sale. Well, that is all the time we've got this week on the 5-Minute Roundup. We thank you so much for joining us. We will be back again next week with another episode. These days, we are both a podcast and a video. If you are watching the video and you're into podcasts, go out to your favorite podcatcher and look for us. You will find us there on Google and Apple and Stitcher and Spotify and Audible, all those great places. Go ahead and subscribe to us there. If you can take an extra second, give us a 5-star rating. It'll make it a little bit easier for your peers to find us, which would be a great thing for everybody. If you're listening to the podcast, check us out on video. We're on YouTube. The easiest way to find us there is go to the ChannelPro Network channel, become a subscriber. If you click the little bell icon, you'll actually get notified when the new episodes go up. To see some of our reporting at ChannelPro on the situation at Kaseya and all sorts of other great information you can use to grow your business, please visit channelpronetwork.com every day. Awesome new content going up for you there every day. To learn more about Eric and the work he does with his clients, please visit ericksimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. So once again, we're going to be back next week. Until then, folks, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.
Ready.